Hello there, and welcome back to the channel, or welcome for the first time if you are new here. I am James, aka Wheeloftime, aka The Dark 2, and I'm here today for a little bit of something different, venturing into the realms of the TV show, because wow, wasn't Season 2 just fucking amazing? And if you don't think it was, I don't care, I do think it was. There are so many little details that even a week or so now after the show has finished airing, I'm still thinking of little things that I love about this season of the show, and so I thought it only made sense to make a little video about them, and I'm gonna go through the top 25 things that I loved, the little details, the tiny bits in this season of The Wheel of Time. Of course, I've got up on the screen right now a spoiler warning. I would say that this is safe for people who are show only watchers personally. I'm not planning to go into any, plots or spoilers for actual details from the books. I'm not going to spoil the next series of the show for you, intentionally at least. Um, that being said, I will pepper in some added context where it's pertinent. If I'm talking about something that wasn't fully explained in the show, I may add little context details, stuff about theme or world building that isn't spoilery in terms of like it's not going to be a revelation, but it may be little added details. So if you want absolutely nothing at all other than what the show has presented, this might not be the video for you. But if you're a show only watcher or you've read the books as well, you're all good here. And as long as you don't mind a little bit of added info, basically just expanding on what you've seen, not going ahead of it. All right, I think that is all for the spoiler warning and stuff. I'm obviously a huge book fan, by the way. If you are new here, I think that much is clear, given the fact that I've just given a huge spoiler warning. But yes, huge book fan here, and let's crack on. We've got number 25, and I did order these as well. The order is not particularly strict, but I did rank these. My 25th favourite thing about Season 2 of The Wheel of Time is Swan being a little bit fishy. Now, this is something that comes up a lot in the books. She constantly makes puns and metaphors about fish, like in every sentence, pretty much. And I was noticing how much she was doing it in the show too. And yeah, it's spot on because, like, if anything, they've toned it down a little in the show, and it is still very noticeable in the show. But it's just the spot on kind of little detail in the writing that lets you know that the writers know these characters. They're not just writing Queen Lady. This is Swan Sanche, and she's a little bit fishy. Yeah, that is number 25. Swan's fish euphemisms and metaphors, and fishwife, I guess. Number 24. We have the Crescent Inn. Now you can see, you might be able to see, I think the mouse is showing up there, the little moon symbol here on the sign outside the front of Celine's Inn. Moon and stars. That is very much a insignia or emblem that Lanfear identifies with. She sees herself as a bit of a moon goddess. So it was a nice little detail to see in the back of an early scene before Celine was revealed to the audience. And in addition to that, yeah, the name of the inn was actually the Crescent as well, which Logain revealed to us. Apparently he managed to find out where Rand was staying somehow. Little detail though that I did love. The Crescent Inn at number 24. Moving on to 23, we have this whole thing, and it's more of a question than a detail. It's more of a question that I have, because right after seemingly writing I've Been Stilled, we don't know if she actually did write it because it wasn't English, or if that's just what she was thinking of writing. And I'm wondering, I'm just curious if she couldn't write it, because we never actually heard her say it or write it down. Like, she's never said once that she was stilled. She's accepted other people saying it, but never once said it herself, even when she's tried to at the end of the last season. And I'm wondering if here she didn't actually get to writing it because the oaths were preventing her. She didn't fully believe that she was stilled, maybe. It kind of goes against the way she'd been acting, but just a little question I have, and it's little details like this that really make you pore over seasons for lots of time looking for these little details. Could she write it? Did she write it? And am I just tripping? Or could she physically not write those words on paper? Number 23. Marin's apparent lies of written form. Yeah. If you like low quality videos with low amounts of editing and an unprofessional vibe, you're in the right place. Number 22, we have a little thing that was pointed out on Twitter by, I believe, the TV show wiki for the Wheel of Time. The Band of the Red Hand Shield. Now, this is I'm going to keep this very vague because it is sort of a reference of something to come later down the line. But it was nice to see that insignia on a shield just in the back of this scene as one of the heroes of the Horn. It's a very weird mask, almost Aztec looking, that's on the person holding it. But yeah, it was a nice little hint of teaser of something to come, and I probably wouldn't have noticed it myself if not for the Twitter thread going on trying to identify all these people. But yeah, the band of the Red Hand in the back of that shot there. And it's probably worth talking about, like, just the heroes in general being from different, like, cultures and times in our own mythos, because you can see that, like, you can see King Arthur, you can see a guy who looks like Triton, you can see Amaterasu or Amaterasu, as she was actually known in our world. All of these characters are inspired by our own myths and legends, and that's one thing that really comes across more in the books. The way that time is always cycling, and you see these sort of hints that it's part of our own world. And yeah, I think they did this really well. The whole scene with the Heroes of the Horn was phenomenal. Having this little detail pointed out to me was a bonus and enough to make the cut here. But we will move on from number 22, which is the Red Hand Shield, and I will stop gushing over episode 8. Only kidding. This is not actually episode 8. That was a bad transition. Yeah, I'm good at those two. I'm good at bad things, much like Lanfear. Did I mention Lanfear's perfect yet? Don't worry, we'll get that. 21. Is Lanfear kicking Ishi out of Ran's dreams? Now, there's a lot of question over how real any of this was. Was Ishmael actually even there? Was he there but in cahoots and going along with it to manipulate Rand? Which I think is probably the most likely theory. Or was Selene just projecting, like, an actual, like, Ishmael made a version of Rand in the previous episode, I believe. I think it was the previous episode, yeah, in episode 5, So like, if he can do that, can she make one of Ishmael, and then she can just zap him away again? Either way, Lanfear is manipulating, and she apparently kicked out Ishi, as she calls him, and yeah, that little detail, a nod to the fans. Yeah, we're fans too, you know. We call him Ishi too in the writers' room. In fact, Lanfear does now, and there's nothing more perfect about that. Well worth a spot on this list at number 21. And coming up next, I have a bit more of a question again with this one, but also something that's been noted by the showrunner himself in a Q&A recently. It was something I was thinking about previously. There seems to be a focus on the number 8 in the show, and like I said, this has been confirmed to be a thing worth noticing. But there's a few different examples where in the books the number 13 was sort of an evil number in a way. You know, if there's 13 channelers, that's the amount it takes to shield and to gentle a man. If there's 13 Forsaken, there's other things that have 13 as the ominous number. I think the ominous number in Showland, though, is going to be 8 from the looks of things, because it looks like there's 8 ominous Forsaken seals. There's 8 channelers in this scene. Well, technically there's 16 channelers in this scene here, but there's 8 channeling participants in this scene from the Damane here on the ship, that when they were shielding and gentling around, and I believe there was 8 Aes Sedai that were in the camp that gentled Logain in season 1, though I'm not certain on that one. There's probably a ton of other things as well that we've missed, that 8's just sitting there in plain view. But yeah, I think 8 is the new danger number, and I think that makes Swan bringing 14 Aes Sedai to Kyrie in, like, that's a move. That's more of a move if it only takes 8. If it took 13, it was a move. But if it takes 8 and you brought almost twice that amount, like, I'm just saying. I'm a little scared about something, I think. Brought twice as many nearly as you needed. So yeah, 8 being the new danger number, that is my little detail picked up on in this season in a few different places, especially in this scene here with the Damane. I noticed it most prominently because they were, of course, planning to gentle him. And it you know, it struck me, there isn't 13 people here, how are they going to gentle him? Oh, it's not 13 anymore. Anyway, moving on. Number 19, we have this Sharon Warrior being a Sharon Warrior and getting dressed while being ambushed in the middle of the night. Of course, it's none other than Masema here in this shot that we see at the end of episode 2 when Perrin is being ambushed in the night by the Sean-chan, and it's such a great detail that in this first shot where we see him, he's shirtless, he's been woken up in the middle of the night, you know, he's trying to like just wake up and get himself together, and then like 30 seconds later in the next scene when we see him coming out of the building, he's got his shirt on and all the guys behind him are dead. And it's just like the fact that he managed to find the time to get dressed during fighting for his life, or that he just did it while he was fighting for his life, which feels even more likely given the sort of way that the Shinarans are described in the books as, you know, always being ready, and they'll just go. They'll go if they need to go. Like it's on. It's on when it's on. Just a perfect example of the sort of little details that that really make this feel so much like the Wheel of Time. And yeah, 19 Masema getting dressed while being ambushed in the middle of the night. At number 18, I've actually got a video clip to go with this one. So it's not the still that you're looking at right now that it is particularly about. But Avienda having a little too much pride here. I went on one too far there. Okay, that'll do for now, because I want to talk first. So there's this whole scene where she gets beat up by Perins Shield, presumably, and later explained to be meeting her toe because she was defending herself rather than protecting another maiden, which doesn't make sense to me, because in my understanding of Giotto from the books, that would not incur any toe, and it sort of like made me raise an eyebrow for a little bit. But thinking about it, what a characteristic of Avienda specifically is that she is far too proud, and she takes things too far. She takes on toe that she has no real business taking on because she is that proud of her own honor. And I think that might be what we're seeing here. There were no subtitles on the Maiden Hand talk for this bit, but my interpretation of what we're seeing here is Avienda asking Perins Shield to help her meet her toe, and they'll sort of look at each other like, really? She thinks this is hers? Really? Before one of them nods at the other and they agree to go ahead with it. So I'm going to play this clip now, and just keep an eye on that while you're watching it, because that's pretty much what I think is happening here, is Avienda being a little too proud. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Is this a change in the way of making toe slightly differently, or just a misunderstanding from the writer's perspective on Giotto? Or is this an example of Avienda being too proud and her two companions being like, this bitch never stops? At number 17, I have another little question for y'all. I like peppering these in because a lot of these details are questions in themselves. Leandrin came to deliver an order to Barthanes, and the question I have is, was this even a legitimate order? I know a lot of reactors and stuff have been questioning whether it came from Ishmael or from Lanfear, which makes sense. But I'm questioning whether it was even an order she was given, or if this is just something Leandrins decided to do because she's pissed. Because that feels more in line with Leandrin to me, that she's just pissed and, like, she's mad at Moraine and things are spiraling and she sees it's beginning to spiral, and she's like, okay, I'm gonna have to get out of Dodge soon, so before I do, I'm gonna cause some chaos, because I don't even think the dark side is going to trust me after, like, some of the shit that I'm getting up to. I say the dark side, it's the shadow, but the show seems to be going with the dark a lot more. So yeah, do you think Leandrin was actually ordered by one of the chosen / forsaken to have Moraine killed, or do you think she made this up and went out on her own limb here? It's an interesting question to ask. Number 17. At number 16, we have the budget of Shander. I feel like a lot of people that see this will probably be American, so the Walmart Shander for y'all. For us in the UK, it might be the pound shop Shander. It's the mum, can I have an Ashandarai? Nah, hun, we got a Ashandarai at home, and it's this. For anyone who doesn't know what an Ashandarai is, this isn't a Ashandarai. Well, it's a budget one anyway. It's basically a pole arm, a blade on the end of a staff, and it's a nod towards a weapon that Matt will use in the future, and the knock together makeshift version here made with the ruby hilted dagger. I thought this was such a clever scene and such a good way of having Matt work around it in a very Matt way. He didn't, you know, just like resist it and walk out the room, which I'm not sure he probably couldn't have done because there was the lock here. He didn't like take some he took an unorthodox approach. He was like, all right, I'm going to use it, I'm just not going to touch it. And that is very Matt, and the fact that they managed to tie in this foreshadowing to some future character development of his, well, not character development, but an item he gets later on that looks similar. It's just a nice little nod. Yeah, love the budget. Walmart, pound shop. We got a Shander at home. A Shander. That's number 16. And speaking of Matt, now, I want to begin by saying I was a Barney Harris stan since he got announced, like, as part of the Wheel of Time, since before we'd seen anything from season 1 aside from, like, the casting. I thought he was perfect. I'd seen him before in another TV show, Click, whatever you want to call it. I think it's Click. And I just thought he was perfect for Matt. So I was pretty upset when he left the show, and we found out he was getting replaced by a new actor. That being said, Donald Finn has absolutely blessed us this season, and has now taken the role of Matt for me. This is an actor that I didn't know before he came to the show, unlike Barney Harris. So I had no prior expectations, aside from knowing that he was replacing somebody I already did like. And to me now, he has replaced Barney as my headcanon of Matt. When I'm reading the books, when I'm watching the show, when I'm playing my board game based on the books, he's Matt to me now. So he's just done a phenomenal job, and I want to commend him for stepping so seamlessly into the role, making it his own, and his facial expressions in particular say so much. I mean, there's so much that you can see just in the shot here of a brief moment, a single frame, but they change like so rapidly as well in the shots. He goes through so many emotions in such a short space of screen time, and it really works for the character. So number 15 is just a shout out to Donald Finn. Thank you for giving us an amazing season as Matt Cawthon, because you've exceeded the expectations I had, and I couldn't be any happier than listening to you shout Dobby and this is Toby's again, which I literally have tattooed on my arm right here. Like, yeah, you killed it, man. You killed it. Another actor or actress who absolutely slayed this season is, of course, Lanfear. Now, every single second that Natasha was on screen was one that I enjoyed, and not just because she's smoking hot, but also because she's the perfect embodiment of this character. When she was Celine, I was thinking, and obviously I knew she was Lanfear underneath, but when she was acting as Celine, like, her acting of acting was so good, and now that she came out as Lanfear, it's such a heel turn, and both sides of it she does so perfectly. This is just basically a simp one. Yeah, I'm basically just simping for Natasha O'Keeffe here, at number 14. But Lanfear's perfect. She can do whatever she likes to me. I'm gonna move on before I start making more of an idiot of myself. Oh shit, it's more Lanfear. I didn't plan that well. Number 13, and it's a good job it's 13, because it is that spooky dooky number. the true power of the shadow we got to see here in this scene. Now, if you haven't read the books, the true power is something that hasn't quite been explained yet, so I'm not going to fully detail what it is, aside from another form of the one power in a way that clearly comes from the shadow. And you can see in the shot here that the power itself is coming from the shadows, from the cracks in those floorboards. Shout out to Lauren over at Unraveling the Pan here on YouTube, who pointed that out in one of his videos. Guy spots absolutely everything. Definitely recommend the channel if you haven't been over there already. Anyway, getting to see the true power was great, because every time I've seen something that looked slightly different in the show, I've been going, is that the true power? Like when she did her channeling at the end of episode 4 and it was kind of translucent, which I now believe to be inverted weaves. I was like, is it the true power though? When Ishii had these little tendrils sort of like connecting him to the Eye of the World at the end of last season, I was like, oh, is it the true power? I've been so excited to see the true power, and I don't even know why, but here it is. We see the true power bringing Lanfear back to life, and it was really well done. The VFX work this entire season really has been on point, but this particular effect of it's sort of like an oil slick, but also kind of veiny. Just love it. Getting to see the true power. I hope we get to see some more of it in the future. The saw in her eyes, the little flecks, and another indicator of that being in use. Yeah, really interesting. Really, really interesting. Speaking of spooky people, we go on to another one of the Forsaken here, and this little detail is more in the way of how her channeling is being done right now, rather than what channeling is being done. This is very much a scene where Magidian spins a web to trap Lanfear. You can see that she's preparing something as Lanfear walks into the room, stroking her little weaves or whatever. Like, she has set this trap to catch Lanfear, and Lanfear is the spy, the fly, and Magidian is the spider. I've seen a couple of show-only watchers like be a little confused, like, oh shit, Magidian's even more powerful than Lanfear, and that's not the case. Lanfear is a lot more powerful than Magidian. But Magidian sets traps and hides in the shadows and strikes when she knows that she can cut an artery and doesn't otherwise. So it made perfect sense because she had prior time. She was released presumably hours ago, according to like the way it sort of lines up in the timeline. It was a few hours ago that she got out, so she's literally could have been sat here weaving this web for that entire time. I mean, she's still here. Where else has she been? I don't know. Maybe she like did a casual murder, fucked some guard, had a sandwich, and then started making the web. She had plenty of time, and that's how she's able to ensnare Lanfear here. So I love the detail of the different forms of channeling that we see coming out of the Forsaken. It's the same weaves, maybe. Similar weaves than we've seen Aes Sedai using, trapping people with air is what I read into this weave that Magidian's done here. But it looks different. It looks spidery and it looks like spot on Magidian. I can't wait to see more of her in season 3. That's number 12, is Magidian weaving webs. Number 11 is another one with a clip here, and I can just sort of talk as this one is playing. It's the way that he flickers. I really like this detail. It's not something that we particularly saw in season 1, not that we had a great time in the dream with him in season 1 as this person, but the way that they cut these shots to make it seem like he's flickering in and out is very... There's a couple of things that this could be. The dream world in the Wheel of Time is known to have things flicker in and out of place, especially if those things don't have full control of themselves. So it could be an indicator that he's not quite as adept in the dream world as he appears, because Lanfear, on the other hand, who is the master of the dream world, does never flicker like this. The other thing it could be, because Ishmael doesn't always flicker like this in the dream, like I say, he didn't in season 1, is that anytime we've seen him flickering, that could have been a projection made by Lanfear, and that might be why it's flickering. So, like, it's a bit conspiracy theory, but really, there's a lot to read into here, and to sort of make your own mind up about, at least until we find out some further confirmation of exactly why Ishii was flickering in and out, but Min doesn't seem to, and other characters don't seem to when they're in the dream. It's just Ishmael. Why is that? If you've got an idea that I haven't mentioned, shout it out in the comments. But other than that, let's move on to number 10. Now, I have distorted this image heavily, as I'm sure you can tell. I brightened it up a bit and messed with the contrast so that we could try and see what was actually going on a bit better. Apologies for ruining it, but we have an image here of what appears to be a gateway that Midan is slinking off into at the very end of episode 8. What is a gateway, I hear you ask, show-only watchers. This is a gateway. I'm good at this, right? It's like the Shander thing all over again. There's not a budget gateway, though. This is a full-on gateway. The Forsaken have a lot of hidden talents. We learned this season about tying off weaves that, Moraine didn't think was possible. Travelling is another thing that is lost to the current age, but people from the previous age too know very well how to do it, and there's a few examples of it in season 2. One of them, obviously, here at the end, Midan disappears to who knows where, and I've spotted 3 others. The next one, next one would be Lanfear bringing Matt to Falmer. Lanfear bringing Ran to Falmer is another one, which we actually see them disappear as Mash and Shin sort of swarming around them. And then the 4th one I spotted that I think a lot of people probably overlooked is Lanfear goes to Tarvalon in, I can't remember what episode actually, but when she goes to kill Leandrin's son. She goes to Tarvalon, and I believe she was still around Kyrian at that time, so, like, she could have rode there, but I don't think she did. I think she just teleported there to do that, and then travel that again. So yeah, let me know if you spotted an instance of travelling of gateways this season that I did not. Let me know in the comments for sure, because little details like that are obviously great to see seeded ahead of time, and I think those 4, the 4 that we saw this season, but if there's a 5th or a 6th out there, I would love to know about it. Please do tell me. And that is number 10, the sort of obscured use of gateways that we had over the course of this season. At number 9, we've got a couple of more humorous ones here before we get to the top 5. These were some of the most joyous moments of the season for me, in terms of just, smiling and feeling warm and feeling like it's my comfort series. A lot of people liked the line of "Don't encourage her, get up" from Nynaeve in the scene where her, Elaine, and Loyal are talking at Falmer. Personally, it was the next line that made me absolutely howl. "Your name sings in his ears, now get up." Like, it was just it was just so on point. I don't really have a great deal to say about this other than how much I loved it. I suppose one nice thing about it is the fact that it was lovable, because in the book sometimes Nynaeve and Elaine can be a little bitchy to one another, and the way that they're written is sort of underdeveloped cattiness rather than I think it was meant to be humorous, but it's, you know, it's old writing, is what it is. The way that the show's portraying it, though, we've had that bitchiness of "I'm not following you, princess" or whatever, but now we get more of a comical view on it. And if they continue in that vein, then I think that's okay. I do think Nynaeve will have more respect for Elaine now after watching Elaine like be an absolute trooper in episode 8 and save Rand at the end of the day. I think she'll have a lot more respect for that relationship. But I kind of hope we still get the this level of cattiness, not the needless bitchiness, but the little "get up, don't encourage her," your name sings in his ears type of thing. Because it was really great, and a nice little moment of levity, which was much needed after episode 6, which you all know. Number 9 is your name sings in his ears. Now get up. Number 8. Is this a sex thing or a murder thing? Now, a lot of people have noted that as a great line this season, and it is. But the thing I want to draw attention to more so is the way that Ishmael reacts to it. He turns, looks at Matt, almost considering it for a moment, thinking about it. Should I? Maybe. I mean, and then decides against it. Just like pay close attention to Ishmael in this scene, because the way he reacts when Matt asks the question is. I'm fairly sure he was considering it for a moment there. He was thinking about it for sure. He was in the tank. Where he like crosses his leg as well. Check it out. He's definitely thinking about it, right? He was definitely thinking about it. In at number 7, we have the AIL Humor and a beautiful shot of Avienda's grin here. AIL Smart is perfect in this role. I'm so happy to see her like shining as Avienda. But the AIL humor here, you know, it's basically just flirting, but the way that she's making Perrin feel uncomfortable and then laughing about it is spot on for AIL. Like, that's basically what they do all the time. They'll walk around naked if you think that you're uncomfortable around naked people, just because it's funny to them. Like, not in a, like, in your face, you know, not in a, like a, I'm making it sound worse than it is. But the AIL humor came across to me in this section, especially when Avienda's sort of flirting with Perrin a little bit. It makes me wonder, like, obviously Bane and Chiad are, not obviously, for I should, yeah, I'm not gonna, it makes me wonder where this relationship is going, where that, like, are they going to spend some more time together in the future, or is Avienda going to go somewhere else, other than where Perrin's going? Which I might expect more. Yeah, so I'm kind of curious now by that. If we'll see some changes in one of their plot lines that bring them closer together. But yeah, the AIL humor, it was spot on. I can't wait to see more of it next season. And I'll say right now, we're going to see a lot more of the AIL next season. I'll tell you that for sure. Number 7, AIL humor. And number 6, less comedy. Though there is a little comedy in play here. Verin just being a clever little Verin is my number 6 favorite thing about this season. Mirasael was perfect in this role from the moment we saw she was cast. I was like, that's Verin. I know it hasn't been announced yet, but that is Verin. And she's just phenomenal. She really has every sort of intricacy and nuance of the character nailed to a T. And there's some little details in the plot here that are interesting too, and the writing specifically of the dialogue. You can see here her saying, "No need to stand on my behalf," which is sort of like it falls under the radar, but it's a subtle indicator of rank in the Aes Sedai, and that Verin holds some weight here, even though we've seen that Sheriam is obviously an authority figure of sorts, at least over the novices, and probably a lot of the accepted as well. She is an authority figure, but Verin holds more weight over her here because she's able to tell Sheriam, sit your ass back down, and then pretty much interrogate her after that. All the stuff with Verin in the tower, all the stuff with Verin in Kyrian as well, being clever with the words. Just everything we got to see of her this season was spot on, and I can't wait for more Verin. Yeah, I think I know where she'll be going in season 3, but I'm obviously not going to say for the spoilery reasons, and I'm excited to see her in that environment for sure. Number 6, Verin being a clever little Verin, and that is going to lead us into the top 5, ladies, gentlemen, non-binary pals. The top 5. It only took me 40 minutes. Fuck me. This is going to be a long video because I'm not editing it. Number 5 isn't actually about Ishmael, even though this still is showing him right now. This is another clip. It is the way that all season, whenever somebody has called Rand loose or loose therein, he has gone, "That's not me, I'm Rand al'Thor. My name's not loose." Whatever the Forsaken call him that. But in this moment, right at the end of the season, after he puts an end to Ishmael, Rand answers to the name Luz. He doesn't question it. He doesn't like even look phased by it. He just answers to it immediately. And I thought that was a really interesting detail. So I'm going to play this little clip here, and you'll see for yourself how quickly he just responds to it, really.
It's beautiful. Do you see it, love? What do you see? Nothing. Nothing at all.
While we're here, I'll take the time to shout out Faris for an impeccable performance as well. Really, all the acting has been top notch in this show from day one. Season 2's just stepped up everything in every regard, but we couldn't have had a better Ishmael. All of the casting is perfect. There's not a single character they've got wrong, and I'll stand by that. Yeah, shout out to Ishmael. But yeah, do you think that? I think that Rand just didn't care. He was like, whatever. He's called me lose a bunch of times. I don't care this time. He's about to die. I'll hear him out. Or do you think that, like, it didn't occur to him? It didn't even register. He just answered to it because kindred souls? Yeah, let me know what you think in the comments as we move on to number 4, which is a nice little circular bit of storytelling, and the show does like to do its wheels, of course. But this is the fact that Perrin uses a shield with a bird on it, specifically. And that is, of course, the Black Hawk of Shinar, because it's a Shinaran shield that Uno hands to him. But it links back to the letter that he sent to Egwene and Nynaeve at the start of the season, when he was telling that allegory about birds. He said it's complicated and it involves a lot of birds, but the idea is if you stand in a group shielding each other, nothing can stop you, whereas if you're on your own, you're exposed. And that really is a theme for the season as a whole, but I thought it was a nice little detail to give him a shield, which was in that allegory, and to give him a shield with a bird on it specifically, because he said it's complicated and involves a lot of birds, which I didn't really understand at the time. I'm like, why are birds involved in this analogy? what have birds got to do with shields and warriors? But it kind of makes sense if you've all got birds on the middle of your shields. And it came back in a nice loop here at the end of the season from the very start of the season. So I had to give it a shout out because, yeah, it's a nice little detail. The bird linking back to the letter that was sent earlier on in the season, and that is number 4. Number 3 is this particular line. Many people will wake from the dream today. Now, upon first glance, this simply means lots of people are going to die. And it is kind of the way that the AIL talk. From Avienda's perspective, that's all it means. But from our perspective, there are 2 other meanings that could be read into this. One of them is the heroes of the horn. Now, obviously, the mechanics behind the horn have not been fully explained in the show, but in a way, the heroes being called is, in a way, like them waking from a dream that they are waiting in, so to speak. And that makes this doubly poignant, because not only does she mean people are going to wake from the dream of life, they're going to die, it means people are going to wake from that other dream. And if you have read the books, you'll know what I'm trying to get at without being too blunt about it. But yeah, that's another meaning to it. A third meaning that somebody on Twitter pointed out to me, I can't remember who it was, but I made a tweet about this and somebody replied saying there's a third meaning too, actually, is the Forsaken that Ishmael releases. They are imprisoned in a dreamlike state, right? That's how it's described in the cold open of episode 8 by Leandrins. So this makes a third meaning of this one simple line from Avienda that all ties into one big finale seamlessly. She literally told us all 3 plots of the episode right there. People die, the heroes of the horn get summoned, the Forsaken break loose. Like, those are the 3 main sort of the main points of the episode, at least from the big picture. And it was all in that one line at the start of the episode. Just great. Just great. Clearly intentional. That's well deserving of number 3. And the runner-up here, this is another one with a clip behind it, and it's a clip with audio specifically that I would ask you to pay attention to. We have this whole meeting between Elaine and Rand here. This is a good still to leave it on, I think, before I'm ready to play it. There is a character called Ilyena Sunhair that was Leandrins' wife. And this particular shot with the sun behind Elaine in her hair made me think of the similarities between their names. Now, some people have said that this is a pre-existing theory to me on Twitter, which it may well be, and it may be a theory that has more evidence supported in the books, but it wasn't a connection that I ever made. And when I thought about it, I'm thinking, oh, this might be something that the show is doing that the books didn't. But it could be from the books too, for all I know. I just haven't looked into it properly yet. But basically what I'm getting at is I think that Elaine here might be a reincarnation of Ilyena. The sun hair in particular being the thing that leads me to that conclusion. The other thing that possibly leads me to that conclusion is the audio, because as I said, I want you to listen carefully to this one. I think you can hear like a whispering voice say Ilyena, before Elaine says her name. I'll play it a couple times so you can listen back to it and see if you can hear what I'm hearing. I did actually try and modify the audio, but I couldn't get it to sound any better than it did or any clearer, so I left it with the original in the end. But yeah, we'll play this a couple times. Let me know, can you hear Ilyena here? Because I didn't realise immediately, but after watching the scene a few times, I was like, oh no, there's something there for sure. I'll even mute my sources now.
How are you?
Hello.
How are you?
Hello.
It's like in the gap between him saying "Who are you?" and her saying "Elaine." It sounds like but like, yeah, one more time real quick, and then we'll move on to the final detail of this season that I absolutely loved. Ilyena.
How are you?
Hello.
What do you think? Did you hear Ilyena? Am I tripping? Am I imagining things? Have I got voices in my head? Am I going mad from the tin on side in? Shit. Number one isn't just this awesome shot that I had to use. It's a link. This is very intentional. Now, it's different from the books because it's an actual physical banner, the dragon banner in the books. It's a flag, you know, that is like hoisted up at this point or whatever, or the equivalent of this point, to say, look, this is the dragon reborn, this is his banner. The way they did it in a show, very different, obviously, very cool. The effects were great here. Not that this screenshot does it justice. But the detail that I love about this is that it's going to get even cooler next season, because there is a certain character that is going to have a dragon tattooed on their arm. In fact, there's multiple on their arms, wrapping around their arms. And I'm fairly sure that the way that this dragon spiraled around the tower is going to be very reminiscent to the design of those tattoos when we do see them, presumably next season. So it's something to look out for moving forwards, as well as a little teaser of maybe what's to come. I think that the spiral around the tower that the dragon does is very intentionally going to be similar to the design of that tattoo, and I can't wait to see it. And that's why this is deserving of number one on this list. And wow, we actually got to the end. It only took almost an hour. Maybe this should be edited down, but if you've got this far, you know that it hasn't been, because there's probably been lots of dead moments. Anyway, if you have got this far, thank you. Spank that like button. You know that Robert Jordan would want you to, and if you don't know anything about Robert Jordan, he's who wrote The Wheel of Time, and he has a bit of a thing for spanking, so spank the like button to stay on his good side. Spank the sub button too, if you like Wheel of Time content. I do all sorts of things that you really won't find elsewhere on the internet. If you want to see Matt rapping about why he can toss the dice, you can on my channel. And if you want to see a cipher with Lan and Elaine and Tom and a bunch of other characters, you can see that too. If you want to see a board game based on the Wheel of Time that is played online, I run a league of players who are all hopelessly addicted, and there's tons of content on the channel about that. And really, the real reason that you should spank the sub button is because subs like being spanked. It's only nice. With all that being said, it's been a pleasure to watch season 2. I cannot wait for season 3, even though we're going to have to. And there's just so much good stuff, at least, for us to relive in this season. And there's probably tons of details that I'm missing. So if you haven't responded to one of the other things that I mentioned to comment about, because there's a few different questions I've sort of asked and wondered about people's opinions on over the course of this video, then let me know in the comments what your favourite tiny detail from this season was, whether it's one I've mentioned or one that I haven't. What was it to you that really stood out as something, just a small thing that struck you on some sort of chord, resonated? And yeah, be kind to each other, have a good life. Tai'Shar.